Vigil, Ante, and the Vigilante Antics by BelleAmant. Read by Oakshadow5. Chapter 52. Punishment. Izuku doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to look at Sensei, to see that face covered in machinery that does nothing to hide the disappointment that the powerful villain holds for them. But Sensei requested them, and Izuku and Hitoshi both know better than to deny the man what he wants, especially after what Izuku has done. Sensei frowns down at the pair, and Izuku feels like every sin of his is being judged. Except, instead of sins, he's about to be punished for the good things he's done.
I do not wish to be cruel,
Sensei says with a sigh, one that is drawn out and sounds almost reluctant.
Truly, I don't. I only wish for the best for those who work for me. But you disobey me. I understand that you have to play the parts of heroes, and I know that you both seem to be tricking yourself into believing that you are actually heroes. But I cannot let this go on any longer.
I'm sorry, Izuku says, guilt flowing through his veins as he tilts his head down, unable to look at the man's face any longer. I went too far. He knows that he did, and yet Kota's fearful expression still lingers in his mind. Save me, Kota whimpered, clinging tight to his shredded shirt. You don't even know me. Heroes don't choose who to save, Izuku said, tugging on his gloves and making sure they were secure. They just want people to be able to live another day, even if they can't do the same. Kota didn't say anything more, but the tears kept dripping down Izuku's back nonetheless.
You did,
Sensei says.
Both of you did, but especially you, Izuku.
Izuku flinches when the man says his name, the word sounding wrong, impure, when it comes out of the villain's mouth. But maybe it's just Izuku who's impure.
I think you do not understand how benevolent I truly am,
Sensei says, shifting in his wheelchair.
I do believe that you should learn.
An aura of power, of growing strength, seems to fill the air, permeating every inch of the room, and Izuku could nearly choke on the feeling. In the corner of his eye, Izuku can see how Sensei lifts his hand. He flinches, knowing that a blow will come soon. And it does. But it does not strike Izuku. A muffled gasp makes Izuku snap his head up, makes him look to the source. Hitoshi claws at his throat, breath heaving. He can't breathe, Izuku realizes. He knows exactly why. Stop, please! Izuku begs, turning to the cause. Sensei holds up a single finger, the appendage slowly curling. Hitoshi's wheezing turning to coughing that fizzles out into empty noise. Please, don't hurt him. I'm the one who deserves punishment, not him. Relief floods through Izuku as Sensei uncurls his finger, and Hitoshi drops to the floor, gasping for air.
I know,
Sensei says, ever so slowly.
And that is exactly why I am teaching you a lesson through him.
And then he moves his hand. A simple flick of the wrist, nothing more. And Hitoshi's body jerks, flying through the air faster than Izuku can see. And he slams into the wall, and he crumbles. Izuku hears something shatter in Hitoshi. And suddenly, something snaps in Izuku. Anger builds within him, hot and burning. He opens his mouth, screams. Fire comes pouring out. If this were any other day, Izuku would stop. If this were any other fight, Izuku would freak out, because this is fire pouring out of his mouth. If this were any other scenario, Izuku would be over the moon. He'd be ecstatic. He'd be wondering what the full capabilities of his quirk are. Ideas tumbling out of his mouth like water from a tipped-over glass. If this were what it is not, Izuku would be happy. But Izuku is not anywhere else. Izuku is standing in the same room as his brother's corpse. No, it's not a corpse. He's not dead, he'll be fine. Spewing fire out of his mouth as Sensei just watches him, unperturbed. Only a lone comment coming from the figure.
In your quirk,
Sensei asks, held tilting in a fond imitation of curiosity that leaves Izuku shaking with anger.
I suppose the punishment worked then, if you feel so hurt.
Izuku lashes out, breathing out more fire and curling his hands into fists. Almost naturally, Subconsciously, the fire moves to his will, gathering into gloves around his hands that only seem to slightly warm his limbs. Fire resistance, a part of him notes, but the rest doesn't care as he runs at the villain who hurt Hitoshi.
Now, don't be like this,
Sensei says as he holds up a hand, a wave of power knocking Izuku back.
You know why I had to do this. Do not act like it is my fault.
Izuku stumbles up, feels the air pull under him as he clenches at nothing. Telekinesis, another part of him observes. Just like Mom. Izuku cries out, reaching out a hand, pulling at the air just like Sensei did, trying to clench the man's throat as nothing but grief pours through him. And then he is the one being pulled. He is the one flying through the air, hitting the wall, collapsing to the floor.
Do not act like such a child,
Sensei hisses, his usual coolness gone and replaced by anger. He lifts his hand, and Izuku screams as his skin is tugged and twisted, flames lightning through his lips when something breaks inside of him. Tears roll down his cheeks, misery and pain combining as Sensei rips into him with nothing but his will, breaking him down before he can even attempt to stand back up. And as he cries, Sensei scolds him.
I have offered you so much,
Sensei reminds him.
for nothing but mere information. I promised you mother's return. I did not ask you to murder, nor to hunt, nor to create plans for the League. I abided by your morals, but you did not abide by my guidelines. You lashed out and destroyed plans time and time again. You thwarted the attack at the USJ, and I forgave that. It was not your fault that you were put in the way, where not acting could have garnered suspicion. I did not blame you for Hosu, because the hero killer was barely even an ally of ours, and you did nothing to go against the Nomus. But at the camp, you had a chance to hide. You could have stayed in the cabins. I heard that you were told to, or passed out in the forest. Instead, you took down Muscular and ruined the entire attack by preventing our captures. You have put yourself on very thin ice, and I do hope that you won't make any more mistakes. The prodding stops, the air going lax, and all Izuku can do is slam into the ground as Sensei hums. I hope that you've learned your lesson, young man, and won't be throwing any more tantrums. And just like that, a purple mist surrounds Izuku and Hitoshi. They drop through, Izuku groaning as he's jostled, Hitoshi staying limp. Izuku moves slowly, each step filled with protest, each shift bringing a new round of pain to scream on top of the dulling sting that is his entire being. He pulls himself up, forces himself to rise up despite the aching and bruising and bleeding that encompasses him. Because Hitoshi is still unmoving, and Izuku can't stop. He can't stop because he's afraid that any inaction will lead to a permanent loss of a sibling. And if that happens, it'll be Izuku's fault. All of this is Izuku's fault. If only he hadn't gotten carried away. If only he hadn't moved without thinking. If only he hadn't tried to be a hero. He doesn't have time to focus on if-onlys. He doesn't have time. Sensei can fix this. A part of Izuku screams as he slams down by his friend, checking his pulse. Sensei will heal him if I do what he wants. He picks up his brother, ignoring how his shoulders scream at the decision. Sensei still needs me. He won't let Toshi disappear. He stumbles around blindly, searching for anything familiar. He spots a street sign and sighs with relief. He isn't far from the local hospital. To Izuku, it's proof that Sensei has a plan. A plan that doesn't involve Hitoshi being ripped away from him. And that's a plan Izuku can accept. He won't lose anyone else. He can't. He makes it to the hospital. He limps through the door, careful not to jostle Hitoshi too much as he makes his way through the waiting room, up to the front desk. He ignores the surprised looks from the others. Or maybe they're just not processing, because all Izuku can think of is getting Hitoshi help. Hi. Izuku lets out, and winces as his voice cracks, missing a word harsh on his throat. My brother needs some help, please. Things blur from there. Izuku isn't sure when the doctors come to whisk his brother to safety, or when they try to help him too, but he has vague memories of yelling and fighting the staff off when they try to separate him from Hitoshi. A part of him thinks that he may have activated his quirk, but all that does is send him into a spiral of self-loathing, the reminder that he is now quirked
and yet was more useless than ever before. More of a deku now than I ever was as a kid. He can't disagree with his own thoughts, not when he's sitting uselessly beside his brother's hospital bed, wrapped in bandages and unable to move, unable to even blink, lest his best friend disappear the moment his eyes close. He can't disagree. He can't move. He can't do anything. I'll fix this, Izuku promises, watching over his brother, who won't wake up. I'll fix this, and we'll be happy. Sensei will forgive me. I finished this alone. You'll be safe. We'll be free. I'll fix this. He wonders if he's making empty promises. He hopes to whatever higher being there is that he's not lying. He wonders if he has a say anymore, if he even has the right to ask for such kindness. And then, Aizawa enters the room, and Izuku blurs back into reality. No, fuck! Hitoshi is close to death, what the fuck? But anyways, guys, I hope you all enjoyed Chapter 52 of Vigil, Ante and the Vigilante Antics, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!